Just the most basic ones of like living the life that you don't want, not wearing what you want to wear, not dating who you want to date, not living where you want to live. Like you're living at home and you want to move and your parents say no and you don't make the move. Imagine how much you care about your mother's opinion and your father's opinion and your sibling and all of those other people. I was like, and now imagine that there's literally only one, because I had no siblings. I basically had no mother. I had just a father. And so like his approval was literally everything. And he disapproved of the path that I wanted to take in my life. So I think about death all the time because it's probably the central theme. It's probably the thing that I think the most about. And I think that influences how I see time and also how I think, how it influences agency, like what actions I'm willing to take despite the judgment of others. And so a lot of times, and it might be because I have more insecurity than everyone, that I think like, man, I want to do this thing. And then I hear all these other voices of reasons why I shouldn't do it, or why somebody else will say like, that's bad, or you're bad, or like, that's wrong, whatever. And so I think I've had to come up with a lot of these devices to get around my own insecurities, to take action despite those insecurities. And the biggest one that I think about is that it doesn't matter whether I achieve all of my goals or I don't achieve all of the goals. In 3 generations, I'll be forgotten. And the only people who were naysaying against me will also be dead. And so then it's like, just do it for me. And then when I wake up every day, there's only one voice I have to listen to. I think that the more you flex whatever that muscle is of like independent thinking, the more it becomes the default way that you think. And then everyone else's actions just start looking more and more insane to you. I mean, shoot, just the most basic ones of like living the life that you don't want, not wearing what you want to wear, not dating who you want to date, not living where you want to live. Like you're living at home and you want to move and your parents say no and you don't make the move, or you're dating a girl because she's socially accepted, by your friend group. She's safe, but like there's always some distance in between you, but you're like, I don't want to risk it, right? Or like you're in the job and every day you go there and you're like, I mean, it's okay. And the idea of just living an okay life just sounds so terrifying to me, that the freedom to fail over and over again is still more fulfilling to me. At least it feels like it's real than walking through kind of on autopilot. And so I think that's a lot of the choices that other people make that seem insane to me now, but didn't seem insane to me a decade ago. You know what I mean? I think it's just like, as you practice taking more agency, taking more responsibility for the decisions, then you just get better and better at it. And then it just seems more and more ridiculous. They're like, I just can't quit my job. And you're like, why? Like, no, physically, why? Like, why can't you quit your job? Like, you know what I mean? They start hyperventilating. And it's like, could you move in with your parents? Could you move in with a friend? Could you split rent? I mean, I could, but I mean, other people who are going to die in 100 years would think what? And one of my favorite ones is, and I say this all the time to Layla, like whenever we're getting to some sort of like mini complaint, it's like, if you zoom out far enough, you can't see the earth. So we're talking about like, oh man, they're going to mess up this order on this vendor's, blah, blah, blah. I was like, if you zoom out far enough, you can't see the earth. It's just like, it just puts everything immediately into perspective of how ridiculous some of the things that we're concerned about are. It's like the best way to guarantee to not have the life that you want is to do what everyone else is doing. Unless you want what everyone else has which no one does. I think I had a lot of practice with it because so like a lot of people have many voices that they hear that they feel are judging them, right? They have their friends, they have their uncle, they have their siblings, they have their cousins, coworkers, whatever. I think I had just one voice that I heard really loudly. And I was talking to one of our employees the other day, and I was trying to put it in perspective, a younger guy. And I was like, imagine how much you care about your mother's opinion and your father's opinion and your sibling and all of those other people. I was like, and now imagine that there's literally only one, because I had no siblings. I basically had no mother. I had just a father. And so like his approval was literally everything. And he disapproved of the path that I wanted to take in my life. And so I think a lot of these mental faculties or these little frameworks or these isms just came from like, how can I combat this incredibly booming voice in the background? Because like when I look at what I was doing at the time, like I was a consultant, I graduated in 3 years, I took the consulting job, I did all the things. But the craziest thing was that the moment that my father was most proud of me and he approved of my life the most was when I was the saddest. And so that's when I was like, maybe his approval isn't the right way to feel good about life. And so that started basically the 6-month journey from when I decided that I wanted to change my life till when I changed it. And I think that like as you become more able or more potent or higher agency, that timeline between when you decide you want to do something and when you actually do it just continues to compress, right? Like now if I want to change something, I'm like, let's change it, like done. We walk out of a thing, I was like, we're never going to do that podcast again, or I don't want to talk to this person again, or whatever it is, right? Whereas before it's like, okay, I have to sleep on it, I have to really think about it. And like, how am I going to, it's like, why do I care about how I'm going to say it? This is what it is, done. And it's just like, and that timeline is compressed, but the hardest one for me, like the first one was by far the hardest. And every one since then, the nice thing is that no matter how difficult your circumstances circumstance is, if you have, like, the bigger the wall that you have to get through is, as soon as you get past that one big wall, you then can use that wall as the evidence for why you can jump over the next wall, because that will be the biggest one. And so, like, after I did quit my job and left my house and left Baltimore and didn't tell my dad until I was across the country because I was so afraid, like, people think of me as like some big alpha whatever dude. I was like, I was so afraid of my father's disapproval that I didn't tell him until I physically left the state. Like I'm not, like, think about that. Like, I wasn't even just one state over. I was like 5 states over. And then I was like, hey, by the way, I'm going to California. And he was like, well, let's come over. We'll talk about it. And I was like, what do I have to do now? It's like, oh, I gotta sell strangers. And I was like, I told my dad I didn't want to do what he wanted. How hard could this be? And so, like, it then becomes this one huge proof point. So the bigger the dragon is that you have to slay, the more evidence you have that you can slay the next dragon. And I think that is, if there's ever been a good point for why getting over the one first hard one is so hard, is that it will then give you the reinforcement that you can do whatever you need to do next. I think about that a lot, because, like, whenever I feel anxious or insecure or angry or sad, I'm like, what conversation do I need to have that I'm not having? And so then, and usually if I just think for not that long, I'm like, this is the conversation I've been putting off. And then, you know, I'm not the poster child of mental health. And so I'll just call myself a pansy for not having the conversation. And then I just have it. And so again, I think it's like, I need to have this conversation, and the time between when I have it versus, or when I know I need to have it, when I actually have it, just continues to compress. And if you've ever had like a breakup or an employee firing, or a quitting if you're an employee, like these things that you dread, I don't know if you notice it, but like the day you do it, the moment after you do it, I'm like, how many other conversations can I have? Like so like the next series of hard conversations that I had after I left home was actually like years later. So I had multiple partners, and I had a partner in one of my gyms. I had a partner in 4 other gyms. I had a partner in a chiro and dental marketing agency, and all of them relied on me to make money. And so all of their livelihoods were still dependent on me, but I was splitting everything, and it was horrible for me at the time. And so I remember when I ended up getting in a DUI, and, you know, I talked to a performance coach or whatever, and he was like, your stress and these conversations could literally kill you. He's like, they almost did. So I got in a head-on collision at 60 miles an hour and I walked away. No injuries. But it was like my wake-up call, but not to stop drinking. It was my wake-up call that I needed to have these conversations. And that's what I was avoiding when I was drinking. It wasn't the alcohol. It was, what were the things that I'm avoiding, that I'm using alcohol to get away from? And so the next day, I had the first conversation with the first partner, and it was horrible. But the moment I was done, I was like, I got to call the other guy. And I called the other one. I was like, this is how it is. And the thing is I had this backstop of my death, of like, you almost just died because you wouldn't have this conversation. And so then it just gave me this courage to just be like, and whatever the reaction was, I was like, I'd rather be alive. Like, that was it. And so it's weird though, because death has been this really recurring theme in my life, that like the same thing happened when like the only thing that gave me enough balls to stand up to my dad, to be fair, from a distance from the car when I was driving halfway across the country. Like, let's not make me into too big of a hero here. Was the idea that like I started thinking, like, every day I was like, I hope I don't wake up. You know what I mean? And that was the thing where I was like, this is a big enough problem that like, if you don't want to wake up, then exactly. And that was it. And I was like, I have nothing to lose. And that was when I think in the last podcast we talked about this, where it's like, if everybody who's like at the bottom and feels like they have nothing going for them, reframe that as, I have nothing going for me, which also means that I have nothing to lose by taking action, it makes you a much more dangerous person. And I think that was the flip that I've had repeatedly shown to me in my life that allowed me to take the step that I was afraid to take.
How can we use AI to do the things that are the normal functions of the business at a way better, way faster, et cetera? What I'm seeing a lot, especially with founders or people who are starting out, is they're using AI to do a lot of dumb things really fast. And they're trying to build companies that the models are going to swallow up pretty much immediately anyways, or already have for super users. And it's just going to like become easier. Mm-hmm. And the question that I would ask for the entrepreneurs who are, AI maxing right now, and again, I think it's very good to adopt new technology, is, are you making more money? Just the very simple, are you making more money now? And even though you're token maxing and spending all this money on tokens, like, are you making more money? And I had a business I looked at the other day. They had 11 VAs that were doing, I can't remember, some sort of like data cleaning work. Yeah, virtual assistant. So low skilled labor overseas that was doing work. And I think it was something in the neighborhood of like $11,000 a month is what they were paying for these 11 VAs. And they were doing a good job and it all worked. And they then spent $350,000 to try and create an AI system that would replace what these 11 virtual assistants were doing. But that means they spent 3+ years of costs on what these 11 virtual assistants were doing. And it wasn't even the constraint of the business. It was just a process that they could automate, not that they should automate it, because it's not the thing that's limiting their growth. And so they still need more customers. And that wasn't the thing. This was like part of their quote process or something, but that wasn't the limitation. They didn't have enough demand. People are using AI in the wrong places. They're trying to start AI businesses when they shouldn't start AI businesses. They should use AI in their business. They're trying to advertise as AI businesses when you should just advertise the thing that your customer cares about, which is the solution to their problem, the outcome. None of that's changed, but because you got really excited about it, you think your customers are going to be excited about it. But a lot of people are afraid of AI. So it's not necessarily even a positive, and it's not making you more money, which is the final question. I think stakes, for example, AI can give all of the recommendations in the world, but someone has to own the decision. And so as of right now, maybe it will in the future, AI isn't a citizen of any country. It doesn't pay taxes. And so somebody has to be responsible. And upside, on the flip side. And to take this into different domains from the media perspective, imagine Jimmy, so Mr. Beast, has a video and they're like, Mr. Beast is going to replace by AI. He's not going to get replaced by AI. Because if he had a video that said $5 million and the $5 million wasn't real and the Lamborghini wasn't real, there'd be no stakes. Like chess, right, has become more popular now than it's been in recent history. But robots can beat humans at chess, but no one cares. So humans want stakes. And so there's the compensation side of it, which is that somebody's going to be responsible. Someone has to risk the money. Somebody paid for the token. Somebody owns the LLC. Someone owns this. And so there is value in the judgment and the assumption of risk and upside, which can be money or just the responsibility. From a media perspective, we still have to introduce stakes into the show. Now, of course, there's going to be the fiction world. They're going to be much harder hit. But if you're trying to do a reality TV show, the real part has to be there. I'll take this from two different angles. So first is, I think outsourcing thinking to AI as of right now is still a really bad decision. It's like, I think anybody who's used AI for any period of time knows that you can get it to agree to anything. And that's frightening when it comes to making decisions. And so every time I'm like, I think it's gotten a little better. I'll just give it a really obvious decision to make. I'll go, okay, let's open up Claude, let's open up OpenAI, let's open all of them up, and I'll ask the same question to all three. And they're just all over the place. And so I'm like, okay, this is still back to my judgment. Number two is that if you do delegate your decision-making to it, you get dumber. Now, there's all this research. I'm sure you've had people on the podcast who've talked about it. And it's like, I for sure, this is the best asset I've got for now. So I want to keep it as sharp as I can. Do not delegate the hardest work the hardest thinking work you have, because you will just get so weak so fast. We do this exercise in person with entrepreneurs because I think it's so powerful, which is if I were to say, hey, build me the tallest tower using a series of blocks. If I say, you have 5 seconds, you're right here, right? And that's all you got. And you're like, oh, it's time, hands off. If I said, okay, now let's assume we had a little bit more blocks than I could build in 5 seconds. And I said, okay, what if I said you had 5 minutes? Would you build it differently? What if I said you had 5 days? What if I said you had 5 years? And so what happens is the foundation completely changes based on the height of the building because of the time horizon you're thinking in. I had a mentor tell me this a long time ago, and it really stuck with me, which is the fastest way to build a $10 million business is not the fastest way to build a $100 million business. Even in the fastest way to build $1 million business, not the fastest way to build a $10 million business. You could probably build a one-person agency to $1 million a year pretty quick. You could do it really quickly. Getting to 100, though, you think about it differently. And so I think, to your point, one of the still outstanding competitive advantages that you can have as an entrepreneur from a thinking perspective is just thinking longer. Even during the exit process, if it's a fast, company, it's like, you're kind of like, just please everything stay fine. It's like holding your breath for 6 months and being like, please just go through. And then if it goes down to this for a week or two and they're like, hey, why are the billables down? You're like, it's a momentary blip. It was expected. It was actually did I not send you the updated forecast? It's a whole thing. And I'll do it with the drawing because it might be a little bit easier. But if you were to build a 100-story building, you'd have to dig way deeper. You'd have to have you build with different materials going up. And so there's 100 decisions that get made that if you're doing 100 stories versus one, you choose differently. And so where it gets really tough is that they want to have it all. And so say, I want to have the speed of building a 1-story building. But then they get to 1 story and say, well, actually, I want to have a 10-story building. But the foundation wasn't right. And so this is where entrepreneurs they'll do this, they'll skyrocket here and then they plateau. And then sometimes, unfortunately, the correct step is that you have to take 2 steps back, rebuild the foundation, and then it goes up again. And so I think, to your point, focus and patience are the 2 enduring competitive advantages because they're so anti-human. The decision, I still think about this, the decision that he made, that he was just like, I'm going to have a logistics company be my competitive moat. He started as a bookstore online. And to go from there to no, we're going to own the trucks and the warehouses and be better at warehouse and delivery than anyone else. That's what we're going to do with our online internet business. But like, who can unseat Amazon right now? Really tough. What the $1 million business owner is missing when they're trying to get to 10 is what they would have done differently is they would have stayed longer in the product market fit phase, or trying to make sure that the customers who come in keep wanting to spend money with them, which they either do periodically. So like if you buy a soda that you like, you keep buying it. It's not like you're on a subscription, but you just buy it regularly. On the other hand, there's subscription revenue, which is truly recurring, like your Netflix subscription, whatever. But they know that when that customer comes in contact with the business, they're going to stay and that money's going to keep going, which is what allows it to stack. And so if we think at the most basic level, if every time you get a customer, they never left, then the business will do nothing but grow. It will either stay the same or it will grow whenever you get a new customer. It just keeps growing. And the difficulty of the $1 million entrepreneur is that getting to $1 million you can do really quickly, or 10. And I know that the world is like, I can't believe that. I promise you can do it if you just learn enough skills. But that can happen really quickly because it just doesn't take a lot of moving parts to make it happen. Getting to 100 or getting to $1 billion in revenue, I haven't gotten to $1 billion yet, but I feel confident I know what we need to do. The $1 million entrepreneur is trying to fit $1 billion of new sales in 1 year. And that's the problem, is that at the end of next year, because all the customers they signed up to make their $1 million are gone because they aren't good enough, they have to go back to the market and sell and get another $1 million of customers. So they think, if I want to get to $2 million a year, I have to go sell twice as many customers, which is true.